So yeah, as you know, 2024 concluded as another annus horribilis for global climate action, with close to nothing coming from COP29, heightened geopolitical tension overshadowing the climate crisis. But the question is not whether the transition will happen, because climate change is a physical reality that will impact everybody in an exponential way. So the transition will happen. The question is more about the form that the transition will take and the timing. So when we look at the latest GHG emission data, and you have here the graph from the UNEP emission gap report, we emitted about 57 gigaton of CO2 equivalent in 2023, which is up 1.3% from 2022. And in 2024, we will still again increase. So yes, emissions keep rising, and we have not yet reached this moment of peak that was supposed to happen before 2025 in a Paris-aligned scenario. Both the ambition gap, so what countries commit to do, and the implementation gap, what countries are actually doing, have further widened compared to a Paris-aligned trajectory. So this now puts our world on track for global temperature rise of plus 2.6 degree in case countries actually do what they committed to, and close to plus 3 degree in a business as usual scenario. So yes, we are now on a delayed transition scenario that will, of course, have massive socioeconomic consequences and massive costs. So that's the current gloomy picture. But hey, it's almost Christmas. So in a Christmas spirit, and for you to have a hopeful and cheerful Christmas break, I will give you some good news. First, on the ground, many technologies key to the energy transition are showing very strong development. And first and foremost, renewables. Global renewable capacity is expected to grow by 2.7 times by 2030, which is even higher than what countries committed to. This represents an additional 5,500 gigawatt of capacity, with, of course, about 60% of this growth occurring in China. So this still falls short of the net zero trajectory objective of tripling renewable, 3 times compared to 2.7 times. But it highlights the fact that the renewable revolution is unstoppable and now less driven by environmental regulation and subsidies, and thus less subject to political uncertainty. And so that's the other trend which is at play. Politics and regulation are no longer the only driver of the transition. Other factors are gaining in importance, such as economics, just the fact that renewables are becoming the cheapest option in many regions, and also trade policies, with now, a trade war raging to build and secure domestic clean tech supply chains between the US, China, and Europe, this reshoring trend. And of course, if you want to build a local supply chain in each region, it means that the transition will cost more, but it also means that we will need more climate investments. So now just to explore on the next slide these factors and see the investment opportunities it creates. So on the graph, if you want to look at the competitivity of various energy sources, the best metric is the LCOE, the levelized cost of energy, which incorporates both CapEx and OpEx. And what we see is that the LCOE of renewables has continued to decrease over the past years. And the IEA expects even further gain for 2030 and beyond. So what it means in practice is that in a growing number of countries, renewables have become the cheaper option, cheaper than fossil fuel alternatives, and of course of nuclear as well. Okay, yes, LCOE does not give you the full story about competitivity, and we still have the intermittency of renewables and grid bottlenecks, which remain obstacles, of course, for more rapid deployment. But as power demand is forecasted to grow even more rapidly than expected, renewables are likely to capture a large share of this additional power demand. And of course, if you want to build net zero power system, in addition to renewables, you also need grid and storage. And we see many opportunities there as well. So in any scenario, grid investments need to increase massively. Rule of thumb, for every dollar spent in renewable, you need $1 in grids. Today, we are about at 60% of this level. So we expect much more favorable government condition on this front, creating, of course, massive opportunities for grid builders and for grid operators. And last but not least, very exciting theme, energy storage, which is a key building block of the transition and an area where we expect significant technological evolution up to 2030 in relation to cathodes, but also anodes and electrolytes. And we expect these changes to scale up stationary storage, so the storage we need for power grids, which is probably the hardest nut to crack to have net zero power system. So to conclude, investments in the transition are on track to reach $2 trillion in 2024. And the IEA expects this number to reach $3.7 trillion in its central scenario by 2030. In the net zero scenario, it's 4.5 trillion. And of course, despite a more complex geopolitical environment, this will continue to create massive investment opportunities for investors well equipped to navigate this complexity.